Hello Internet and welcome to this day in history for the 25th of September. Today we are in 1644 and instead of describing an event, we are going to mention the birth of a certain Ole Christensen Rømer. Now, Ole Christensen Rømer was a Dane, so obviously I'm taking this back to my home country for a change. He was also a son of a merchant who managed to land himself a university education for some reason, studying with one of the great Danish astronomers and mathematicians at his time, in fact, improving on Tycho Brahe's work from about 100 years prior. He eventually became so famous that Louis XIV, the Sun King of France, made him one of the primary tutors for his oldest son, the Dauphin, the expected heir to the throne of France, at which point he also took part in the construction and development of some of the more magnificent fountains at the castle of Versailles. Of course, eventually he returned to Denmark, was appointed professor of astronomy at the University of Copenhagen, and spent most of the rest of his life in and around Copenhagen, basically just plying his trade. He was the man who induced the King of Denmark to introduce the Gregorian calendar in Denmark and Norway, which was a single kingdom back then, thus instituting a far more precise calendar as to where, the sun was at the given time compared to the old Julian calendar. Again, something Tycho Brahe had tried to establish 100 years earlier. Ole Rømer managed to do it. He also managed to establish one of the first most, shall we say, complete temperature scales while suffering from a broken leg, and it was in fact a Mr. Fahrenheit visiting him in around 1708 and improving on Rømer's work that made this Mr. Fahrenheit able to publish his own temperature scale just a few years earlier. So yeah, Americans, you owe this man quite a bit, otherwise you would be on Celsius with the rest of us in any possible chance. Libertarians among us might wish to be interested to know that 5 years before his death, Rømer was also appointed the second chief of the Copenhagen Police Department, and his very first act was firing every single police officer in town because he feared for their moral stature and just general morality. So, of course, more were hired, but I'm pretty sure the concept at least would amuse some people. It was also Ole Rømer who first established, shall we say, sort of real street lighting with oil lamps in Copenhagen. So yeah, he was a very interesting man. But why specifically am I talking about him? I mean, I could also mention his great work within electromagnetism, which certain philosophers, interested people would probably know about. Well, I am specifically talking about him because he was the man who discovered and developed the speed of light, the constant c, the 300 or so thousand kilometers per second, etc., etc., etc. And for that he has earned his long-standing position in the higher echelons of important physicians in the world of physics and astronomy and so on. So yes, Ole Rømer. In Denmark he is of course fairly well known, though not as much as he used to be. And in certain scientific circles, of course, around the world, people know his name, but a person who I believe should probably be a bit more known to the general populace of this particular planet. But, well, that was Ole Rømer, and that was the events of the 25th of September. Until next time, I have been the Sage, and I wish you all a very happy day.